Hello, Healthcare Experience Matters listeners. We have author TJ Sweet joining us today, and we're going to be discussing one of our favorite topics on this podcast, gratitude. And before I start asking TJ some questions about his book he's written on this subject, I want to have him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his background. Welcome to the show, TJ.
Hi, Casey, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with all of you. I'm excited to share this topic that's been transformative in my people leadership life, but also in my personal life as well. I'll kind of jump right into my introduction as far as kind of what I've been doing. I've been a healthcare leader since 2007. I've worked in critical care centers, academic health centers, and I've been managing cancer centers for the last 5 years, and now I'm a director of a cancer center. But what I also do is I do a lot of keynote speaking and healthcare executive coaching and team building. And I do a lot of life coaching and mindset coaching as well. So I actually have a podcast called Living the Sweet Life that I do as well, just to try to help people with their mindset, especially with the tough times that we're all kind of have been working through the last couple of years. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about, obviously, is gratitude and kind of how the transformative nature of that kind of takes over every part of our lives, just because it really is the most human emotion that we have. And, obviously the topic of gratitude, like you said, it's already one of the favorite topics, but it's something that I really want to kind of pour into a little bit more on kind of not just what it is, but kind of how to do it in a meaningful way so that it helps you kind of start living with intention.
Writing a book about something, you have to obviously have a lot of passion for the subject matter because it's something you're going to be facing every day for a pretty significant amount of time. So how did you choose the subject of gratitude to write your book about? Let's start there.
Yeah, so it actually started with my own personal journey with kind of needing perspective and gaining perspective. I didn't know it in the moment, right? Hindsight's always 2020, but it's something to where about 8 years ago, I started to share some positive messages on social media. I don't really do a whole heck of a lot on social media, but one thing I thought is if I can make a difference in somebody's life in some way, I wanted to do that. And so I just watched one video and caught one quote that was inspirational to me. So then I posted it. And then again, kind of fast forward, if you will, 8 years later, have been doing it every single day. And it became something instead of what I do, it kind of became who I am. And what people need in this world is sometimes some words of inspiration. So back in 2019, really when this was kind of coming about, I just thought, I've been doing this for, at that point, I'd been doing it for over 5+ years and had, obviously over 1,500 different posts of positive messages and not just quotes that I've been copying, but actually how am I applying that quote to my life? And then that's where the book came about. And then, so each page of the book has a positive quote. They're all and none of them are duplicated. It's all kind of a unique thought, but also kind of an application to go along with it. And then, as I was going through some troubling times of uncertainty and just kind of lacking purpose in my own life, and kind of like this, I'll put off my happiness until thought, right? So I'll be happy when is kind of the way I phrase it as well. So that's really when I had a great mentor and coach kind of talk to me about the practice of gratitude and writing down 3 things you're grateful for. And just, in the beginning, I thought as well, just like a lot of listeners are probably thinking, okay, yeah, I've heard this before. It's just another journal, those kind of things. Well, it's actually something for me that transformed my perspective of life. It didn't just transform my life because actually my life still looked pretty similar. It actually just, I started to look at it differently. And then, so again, with the book, it's a journaling section of 3 things you're grateful for, 2 things you appreciate about yourself, and then an I am statement. And it really is my hope for the readers and listeners really is just a moment of pause to actually just be more often, right? We're always on the go. We're either thinking about our past or thinking about our future so much that we often forget just the power of a pause. And so that's where this has really transformed my life, is actually allow people to just be in more moments, and obviously creating more memories by kind of inserting gratitude into those moments instead of just kind of moving on to the next thing all the time, because then obviously, right, days go by pretty quick and years go by pretty quick if we never really pay attention.
Tell me a little bit more about the I am moment. That one, I'm not sure I fully understand what that is, what that looks like, but I'm very intrigued by it. So what's that all about?
Right. So the I am section, you can also kind of phrase it as an affirmation section. So, and we often don't give ourselves the full freedom and liberty just to actually say how we feel and feel how we feel, because we have this sense of how we think we should feel. We don't actually, there's a great quote of, we don't actually fail at who we think we should be. We actually fail at who we already are, in the sense that we just have this constant pressure of we should be more all the time. So that I am section really does one of two things. One, it makes you pause and think about how are you actually feeling in the moment, right? So if you do this for 365 days, you'll recognize a very significant difference in your I am statement. The second piece of the I am affirmation is that the I am leads to our identity. It leads to what we do next. And so if somebody says, I am anxious, we're typically thinking about something, but we're going to do more things that affirm us being anxious about something. But if you say, I'm excited, or I'm hopeful, that generates a new behavior, a new thought. And then we actually start to identify with ourselves more of somebody who's hopeful and somebody who's excited or somebody who's healthy or whatever. I am happy, right? Just having somebody write down, the clients that I get to work with, when they actually write down, I am happy for the first time, is so powerful, because they're actually being honest about it. Instead of wishing they were, they're actually pausing and realizing I am happy, of which then totally shifts how they feel about themselves, about their surroundings, about their job, about their family. And so it's really just a great pause moment that really kind of helps people actually be authentic with themselves, so that they can then start to see life in a new way.
The book is called Practice Gratitude, Find Joy, and we will be sure to link to it in the description of this podcast. Was there a moment where you decided that you were going to write this book? Was there a particular event that led to you wanting to write this book? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there are a couple different things as far as kind of the why the book, right? Not necessarily, if I was already sharing the messages, why the book is kind of the first question I get from a lot of people. And truthfully, I wanted two things. I wanted to reach people in a new way, right? There's a lot of people that are just kind of saying social media is toxic and it's troubling. And some people are getting off social media because they can't control what's coming in. So I thought I still wanted to get my messages out to the world, but maybe in a new way. But then I also wanted to incorporate the gratitude practice of the actual hand writing something down. There's a lot of power and there's a lot of science behind that, of the actual, when our brain when we write something down, our brain then sees it in a new way. And so I kind of wanted to give a new platform, if you will, for the positive messages and the journaling section. So as far as the moment that really kind of turned my life around, truthfully, so I've had a dog since I can remember, right? It'll seem like a funny story. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there who can relate to pets in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I had a dog that was kind of my everything, and we found out that she had gotten sick back in it was 2015, 2016. She gotten sick in October. We didn't really know what was going on. It just kind of suddenly happened, and I thought she was 9 years old at the time, and I thought I maybe have a few more months with her at best. And the vet at the time just said, let's just do a quick steroid shot just to see how she can do. And that next morning or that night when I went to bed, I thought, if I lose her, I've treated her like an obligation for most of her life. In the sense that I said, I have to take her for a walk. I have to do all these things. I treated her like she was an inconvenience because she was wanting to jump on the couch. She ate, food she shouldn't have been eating, like all these things that I made her feel. I felt like she was a burden. But in that night, I realized I almost lost her, right? In the sense of she was so sick. And so I thought, I'm going to live in regret my whole life if I lose her, knowing that I didn't treat her the way that she should have been treated. And then that next morning, she woke me up for the first time in weeks. And she looked like a 2-year-old puppy all over again. And then she ate for the first time in weeks. And I realized in that one particular moment, when she woke me up and she actually started eating food again, that I wanted to treat her like she was really the opportunity to take care of her. Like she was such a blessing in my life. And so I wanted to treat her and then everyone else in my life and every day that I get on this earth as something that, I get to do, not something I have to do. And that shift for me was transformative. I then started to not count the cost. I started to keep the important things as the important things with her. And then, I had a family member later on that fall that got really, really sick. And then it was a matter of, do I drive back and go see her for a couple of minutes? Do I drive 2 hours to go see her for a couple of minutes? Well, the answer then was obviously yes, because I didn't want to wish I would have. So I drove back to St. Louis and saw, my grandparent for the last time. And then I drove back, and then I'd lost her right after that. But I knew in my heart that I never wanted to wish I would have done anything in my life anymore, and treated the people that I'm grateful for with showing them how much I'm grateful by giving them effort, and not counting costs as much anymore. And really that became every aspect of my life. Once I realized the power that I didn't want to live in regret and shame anymore. I wanted to live in gratitude and hope and optimism and joy. That's really kind of when that shift happened for me. And that's when I knew I needed to share this gift with the rest of the world, because, the shame and regret cycle of wishing we would have is just something that we have the power to completely eliminate from our lives if we just stay present and we actually feel gratitude, express gratitude, and show gratitude.
TJ, what advice do you have for people that may feel burned out with their career and their life responsibilities? How can gratitude help these people?
Absolutely. It's something too. It's a matter of, it's not a cure for burnout. I don't necessarily want to make it sound like this won't make you feel burned out. I think it's first understanding what is making you feel burned out. And typically with the research I've done, there are two different things that are making us kind of feel that way. One is we kind of lost our sense of purpose behind what we're doing. So we feel like we're doing something just because we've kind of always done it, and we don't feel like we're learning anymore, right? But two, it's also we feel burned out when we feel like the thing that we're being asked to do for a job or a career or profession is taking us away from the things that we feel are the most important things to us, right? So maybe we get into a job or a career because of money and all these great opportunities. But then when we realize it's taking us away from our families or our friends, it starts to feel like we can't actually spend time doing the things that mean the most to us anymore. And so it's just a matter of trying to find this balance, right? It's very tough, especially in healthcare. It's very tough right now just to say, okay, I'm going to work less and still get the same amount done. That's a very, very tough, ask of yourself, right? You actually end up adding more stress to your life if you don't create a system and a plan. So I really kind of incorporate the idea of work-life integration, right? So it's a matter of setting something down completely, so where you never work, more than a couple, your standard hours per week is just not realistic for everybody. Some people travel, some people, have meetings all day, and they need to still be able to feel like they're doing something significant with their job. And so with gratitude, what this really does is, one, it helps us create certainty in our lives. And burnout is often a result of not feeling certain about where we are now and the future, or is it ever going to change? And so gratitude kind of helps us understand what we have now, in the sense that the people we have in our lives, and maybe it'll help you shift the perception of what the job is that you're doing and help you find purpose in it again. And so no matter what the role is, one thing I love to do with healthcare leaders and just healthcare workers is I really, really kind of point it back to purpose for them. And so if there are certain things that they feel like, it's just kind of a monotony task, I can break it down and say, if they didn't do that, who would be impacted? Right. And sometimes that reinvigorates this sense of purpose, which helps us not feel as burned out. And then I also think it's a matter of gratitude practice and kind of sitting down and journaling. If people slow down enough to think about what are three things that are going well in my life, which are typically the three things that we're grateful for in our lives, that we start to have the shift that life isn't happening to us as much as it is happening for us. So when we start to shift out of this scarcity mindset of have to get everything done, I don't have enough time in the day, I didn't get to work out today, I didn't spend enough time, like that's that scarcity mindset that just snowballs on us. But the sense of gratitude shifts us back to a neutral place that then allows us to shift to a mindset of abundance, of here are all the things I have in my life. Here's all the opportunities I get. Actually, this job that is making me feel burned out provides for my family that I'm the most grateful for. So then we start to feel differently about our job because we realize the impact it's having in our lives. Now, that still doesn't necessarily help the boundaries piece, right? And so there's a time where you have a real conversation with your leaders and with your teams around boundaries, because we don't want to, when it comes time to, at the end of the day, we want to be able to give the best of us not the rest of us, to the people that we're the most grateful for. And I think that's also, if you talk to a lot of leaders, that's one thing they're stressed out about right now, is they want to give more to their family and their life and their kids. And people want this sense of purpose. But if they don't have that because they feel like they're always doing work, they start to lose identity as a human, right? They start to lose identity as a mother or a father or a brother or a sister or a best friend or whatever it may be, and because they just work so much, And one thing that gratitude also helps a lot with is compartmentalizing, in the sense of when you're actually focusing on kind of where you are in the moment. So this whole idea of, if you're at home with your family or your kids or whoever it may be, with your friends, be there, don't be at work. So try to find a way to not check emails when you're not needing to, when you're not at work. There's this, we're not here necessarily to live to work and work to live, this whole, dichotomy that we kind of work through a little bit, but it allows us to really feel more human and slow down so that we actually contribute more at work, but we're also more present for the people in our life.
Have you seen a difference in the lives of people that begin to take the practice of gratitude seriously and make it a priority in their life?
Yeah, I have seen a big difference. And the words that I really like to use is more of a transformation than a change. So if you think about the word of change, people say, I want my life to, I'm looking for a life change or whatever it may be, a mindset change. The idea of change really, for me, means that you can go back, right? So you change certain things that doesn't necessarily feel like a full commitment. It's just, I want it to be different, but I'm willing to let it go back to the way that it was. So the way I talk with people and what I've seen the most with people that I get to work with is it's actually more of a transformation, in the sense of, if you think about a caterpillar to a butterfly, right? It's a growth. It's a shift that happens that you really kind of lose sense of what it was before because of what it is now. And so, like, for myself, I can't ever go back to look at life the way that I did before that moment, when my life shifted. I don't even remember kind of what it was. And so the shift is really, people start to feel this sense of peace, this sense of calm, this sense of control as well, a little bit, but they start to live this life of hope and optimism. This hope that, because they've not recognized so many things about their lives, but like through practicing gratitude and developing that habit, right? So there's two different things about practicing gratitude that are powerful for people. It's one, obviously, the recognition of things we have in our lives. And that list of wants become the things that we want, become less because we realize what we actually need, and so not needing something more than we wanted. And so, like, this rat race of the pursuit of more, if we never really realize what we have now, we'll never get out of that vicious cycle of wanting more because we don't even recognize what we have in the first place. But the second piece of practicing gratitude and the transformative power is the confidence that we gain from starting a new habit and sticking to it. Because habit formation is super, super important for us to kind of feel like we're growing and we're making progress in our lives. And it's not the sense of perfection that actually helps us feel significant. It's actually just the growth, right? And so when people start this habit, the gratitude habit for them maybe starts a habit of, I'm going to drink more water. Now, there's a lot of brain science behind habits and habit forming and habit building and replacing. And so that's the second piece that I didn't really intend to start out with, is like having a habit formation be the most powerful piece of this. But then people start to say, you know what, I'm going to start, sitting down with my family and eating dinner. I'm going to start that habit. But they feel like they're somebody who starts habits and commits to them. And then they start to think, well, now I'm going to go to bed at a better time so I feel better in the morning. Right. So you can start to see how this starts to snowball into wellness as opposed to survival. I talk to people about, so instead of surviving, it's thriving in their life. But it really started with just slowing down and recognizing all of the things that we already have that has allowed people then to not work out of the scarcity mindset, like I mentioned before, but in this abundance mindset where you're kind of attached to a lot of, connected to a lot of different things, but not really attached to anything. So if things don't go your way, you still recognize, yeah, and look at all these things that I have going for me, as opposed to when one thing goes wrong, your whole day or your whole week, your whole month is derailed, and so it's just a matter of it's being authentic in how we feel that I've seen with people as well. They're like, I start to feel like myself again, and they start to feel confident in who they are and what they're capable of.
In what other ways can people help themselves see the world through a lens of gratitude?
Yeah, so I think one of the most powerful pieces of this is really just, first of all, understanding how we're seeing the world now. So self-awareness being the first thing that I've talked to with most healthcare leaders. Whenever I do keynote speaking, that's the first thing I talk about is self-awareness. Is if you want to feel different, we have to know what now feels like, so that when different comes along, we can recognize it. And so it's a matter of just finding one thing that you're grateful for in a particular moment. You'll find these people who say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to practice 3 things I'm grateful for 21 days and see if my life's different. That's not what this is all about, right? This is an investment in self, investment in who you are, and how you want to feel. If people say they want to feel happier, I think when you think about the idea of pursuit of happiness, right? That's a pretty common phrase. And I find that kind of ironic in the sense that happiness is just a choice that we get to make, because we've all seen people in very less fortunate circumstances who seem happier. And we've also seen people who, celebrities and very high status type of individuals that are very depressed and not happy either. So like at some point, do we start to understand that it has nothing to do with the material items we have? It has everything to do with the inside. Like how do we actually perceive the world that we get to live in? And I talk to people all the time about, if they really want to try to find a way, it's practice gratitude as a group, right? Find your best friend and practice accountability and share those things. One, you'll start to build some different types of trust and relationships, because you're going to share some things that you're grateful for that you didn't even know about the other person, right? So these days, looking through the world through a grateful lens doesn't mean that we're the only ones who see it that way. We could also help someone else. And the other piece of this too is recognizing opportunities to put gratitude in. And this is kind of what the grateful lens, if you will, is in those moments of stress, or you feel like you're out of control, or those moments that kind of derail your day. How do you insert gratitude into those moments? Now, I'm not necessarily saying be grateful for adversity, right? That's a tough leap for most people. Down your journey, and a little further along, that'll happen for you. But in the beginning, whether it's pulling up to a stoplight when you're running late for traffic, and that's a trigger moment for you, to where you feel really, really stressed, or when you're running late for a meeting and you're really, really stressed. It's a matter of like, okay, what can I control? And what is something I'm either looking forward to, or who is someone that I'm grateful for? Just that pause alone, it scientifically, chemically changes our brains, right? It releases serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin when we practice gratitude. And that's functional MRIs show that. So it's not just me and my optimism saying that it actually works that way. And, it reduces cortisol. So it's a matter of, even if you start and end your day with gratitude, or just find a way to insert it. The key is, however you see the world now, find a way to insert gratitude in that way that will be meaningful for you, not just follow my principles, or, do it in a way that's exciting for you, and something that, again, you feel like you get to do, not something you have to do or should do.
We've been joined today by author TJ Sweet. We're talking all things gratitude. His book is called Practice Gratitude, Find Joy. TJ, do you have anything else you'd like to add to today's discussion before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I just really want to kind of reach out and encourage everybody, to kind of give them some hope and optimism in their own lives, and just knowing that they do have control. Even if it's starting one thing, you don't have to do everything, but starting with something. And, I know it's tough these days, but, the tough times kind of bring out the necessity for innovation and the necessity for some change in our lives. And this is something that, again, I can assure you will definitely help a lot of people. And obviously on social media, and if there's any links that we can attach here, I'd love to kind of talk to it, whether it's healthcare workers, healthcare leaders, whoever it may be, just around mental health and mental awareness. That's something I've been able to dive into a lot with people with anxiety and, depression and worry. There's a lot behind that, again, I'd love to kind of help people with too, but just knowing that you're not doing it alone, right? Have everybody kind of know that we're all in this together, and that you have great resources around. And it actually takes strength and courage to ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, because you can be better and you want to be better. And just thinking about the investment in yourself will help you be better for the people that you're the most grateful for. And the other thing is also remembering that people are always watching. So how we handle ourselves through adversity, how we start to lead and live our lives is actually teaching other people around us. And it could be kids, it could be relatives, it could be community members, whatever it may be. And so just understanding that everything we do matters and everything affects everything else. But the great news is we have control. And it starts with our mindset, because our thoughts leads to our actions, and our actions lead to our behaviors and habits and those kind of things. So just really kind of a breath of encouragement in life. If there's any way that I can pour into anybody, I'd be more than happy to help do that. And again, on social media, it's pretty straightforward as far as how to find me. Again, TJ Sweets, kind of all over every platform. And then neverstopgratitude@gmail.com is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me independently. And that'll be me. It's not a team. I'll actually be the one responding to those things. So again, I just appreciate the time to be on this podcast with you all. And I appreciate everything you're doing to help healthcare leaders and healthcare workers around the nation as well.
Thank you so much, TJ. I'll be sure to add links in the description of this episode for people that like to get in contact with you. Thanks again for your time today, TJ. That was great.
Thank you, Casey.